Begin the programme with some sad news as the footballing world mourns the death of Argentina World Cup winner Diego Maradona at the age of 60.
Yeah, the Argentine FA confirmed the news a short while ago, though through its president Claudio Tapia, stating that he'd passed and that he would forever live in our hearts. Now, the Argentine government has announced there are to be 3 days of mourning to honour his memory. Well, born in Buenos Aires, Argentina in 1960, Diego Armando Maradona started his career in his home country before moving to Spain to play for Barcelona, where he won 2 domestic cups, and then Italian side Napoli, where he won 2 Serie A titles.
He is, though, perhaps most famous for his role in leading his country to the 1986 World Cup in Mexico. His notorious Hand of God goal helped Argentina beat England at the quarter-final stage. He then scored twice in the semi-finals against Belgium and was influential in helping them beat West Germany 3-2 and lift the coveted trophy.
After his playing days were over, Maradona managed several clubs across the world. He's widely regarded as one of the best footballers of all time. Now, many of our Premier League clubs have offered their condolences to Maradona's family. Chelsea have called him a genius of his art, a master of our game, and they rest in peace.
Yeah, an iconic photo there. Leeds United's message is simple. Their manager, Marcelo Bielsa, of course, is Argentinian. They've said, artist, icon, legend, rest in peace, Diego Maradona. Players as well. Harry Kane has taken to social media to state that it was a privilege to have met Maradona. Very sad news. Another striker, Marcus Rashford's message was short but poignant. Legendary, he says. Well, let's get some immediate reaction. We can join South American football journalist Tim Vickery. Tim, how's this very sad news being taken?
3 days of mourning have been declared in Argentina, and you can expect a considerable degree of hysteria. It's not unexpected. There were times when we didn't think that Diego Maradona would reach 60, but it's a day that we all knew was going to come, maybe sooner rather than later. But it is the passing of someone who, in Argentina, has the status of a religious icon.
Well, yeah, he's an absolute icon of the game. We can see some pictures of his here. His skill is undeniable, set apart from everybody else. How is he going to be remembered in Argentina?
Well, you can almost tell the history of South American football through the life of Diego Maradona. When the game is introduced by the British, full of first world prestige, it's reinterpreted by the locals into a more balletic game, ideal for those of a low centre of gravity. And he was a squat little man, Diego Maradona, and that reinterpretation leads to international triumphs and international recognition for a region of the world that's starved of those things. So that makes Maradona a very, very important figure. I can't think of anyone in British culture who has a similar importance, almost living out the fantasies of the nation, especially with the 1986 World Cup, and especially with those 2 goals he scored in that fateful quarter-final against England.
And you said, that match is so ingrained on English fans' minds, that famous Hand of God goal in the quarter-final. Is that equally famous in Argentina, that moment?
I think probably even more so, because, again, you have to remember the context. And Argentina was practically an informal part of the British Empire. So the British have the formal power But that goal from Maradona, it's like a message, from the Argentines. We can run rings at them. We're smarter than they are. We can get away with something. And then the second goal, the marvellous second goal, when he picks up the ball in his own half and runs the whole, almost the length of the field on what was a ploughed field. I've talked to players who played in that game, and they said the pitch was in a terrible state. It was almost impossible to do what he did. That goal, the message that he was sending out there was, well, we Argentines, we're just better than the English. So not only are we smarter, we're also better. So it was living out a fantasy of a deep fantasy for the Argentine people. And it is the day where Maradona, in the eyes of many of his compatriots, stops being a mortal and becomes a god. I think we can agree, with tragic circumstances, because living the aftermath of that was not always easy.
Well, Tim, can I just ask you, what is your fondest memory that you have of Maradona?
I remember being in the stadium when he was coach of Argentina in 2009. It was Argentina at home to Brazil. And it's the pre-match warm-up. And, great players like Messi are out there warming up. And Maradona in a tracksuit, just as he is there, was out there too. Just walking around a little bit, playing the odd pass, and you just couldn't take your eyes off him. He's just so wonderfully charismatic that even massively past his athletic peak, even as a kind of rotund little man, there was still something about him which just drew the eye. And I think his passing, it has something to do with the fact that over the last few months he wasn't able to be a coach. And he was working as a coach with Gimnasia, the wrong end of the Argentine First Division. And I think he was doing that because he needed the discipline. He needed somewhere to go every day and something to do every day. But Argentine football locked down in the middle of March because of the coronavirus pandemic. And it didn't return until his 60th birthday, the 30th of October. And all of those months he had there without the need for discipline, without anything to do, I think he maybe mistreated his body just that little bit too much. And it tipped him over the edge, and we're now living in a world without Diego Armando Maradona.
Yeah, Tim, thanks very much for your memories there. Thank you.
Well, let's get some more reaction now from former England midfielder TrevorStevens joins us. Now, you were part of the squad who were beaten by Maradona's Argentina in that famous Mexico World Cup. I mean, how sad of a news is this for the whole footballing world tonight?
Well, it's extremely, extremely sad. I would say that I think if you're looking from an English point of view at Maradona, you've always had mixed thoughts about his ability up against the hand of God moment that happened so many years ago. But extremely sad. He's without doubt either going to be the footballer, the greatest footballer that the world has ever seen. It's between him and Pele, you would suggest. And I had the great fortune, I have to say, of playing against Maradona in that Hand of God game. And he was always going to be the key element in the game. Both sides were equally matched. Standing as we had the national anthems before the game, I think he was on everybody's mind. Because Maradona, even at that stage, was such an iconic figure. Still a young man. I think he was only 24-year-old. But he was the difference between the two teams on the day. And it's right, as what has been said there earlier, that the pitch actually in the Azteca Stadium that day was not great. And compared to today's almost bowling green surfaces, it was nowhere near like that. And there was only Maradona on the field who could have run with the ball at his feet at the pace that he did and with the control that he had. So he was an electric figure. And yes, there was an aura around him, no doubt about that. The Hand of God itself, I wasn't far away from it. I didn't actually see it happen. I turned away because I thought Peter Shilton was going to punch the ball. So I was looking for a bit of space, but by the time I realized the ball wasn't coming, it was dribbling towards our goal. And, the rest is history, as they say. But yeah, a really sad day for football. The outpouring, I think, of appreciation and affection, I think, for him, it speaks for itself. Last week he was having the operation, I think, for a brain tumor, wasn't he? I think we all thought that it was going to be the end of that as far as the trauma was concerned in his life. And of course, we've had the bad news this afternoon.
And what was it that made him stand out, Trevor? Was it obvious, the sheer skill that he had when you saw it firsthand on the pitch?
He knew how good he was. I think, at that level, when you're playing at that, those kind of games, a quarter-final of a World Cup, an incredible heat as well in Mexico City. He just had that aura that he was playing in his own schoolyard, where everybody else was a bit on edge and tense. And it was just his demeanour all the way through, from kickoff in the match. We tried to get as close to him as we possibly could and really kept him quite quiet for the first 50 minutes of the game. And then, of course, the game does turn on the hand of God moment. But whenever he got the ball, we were very focused in on trying to damage limitation as far as he was concerned, because he was the one who could hurt you. And it proved to be with the second goal that he was a genius, to run 50 metres in those conditions against the players he was playing against and with the pressure of the moment. It really was something incredible.
Trevor, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Really appreciate it. Always good to hear.
OK, let's speak to former Premier League player and manager Gus Poyet, who knew Diego Maradona. Gus, thanks so much for joining us on the phone. What was Diego Maradona like as a person and not just a player?
Well, first, it's a very sad day. People who knew Diego personally. I'm not saying I was close to him, because that's a lie, but I had a chance to meet him in the dressing room, in one charity game, even in his room when that famous Bossman Law came, and we had a big meeting in Barcelona, all of the football players, professional football players, and we went to get him from his room. And he was an energetic, happy person. He wanted to help everybody around him. Maybe he looks too much about the people around and not enough about himself. Maybe because of that is, the sad news that we can see today.
Gus, what was it, in your opinion, that he had that other people just didn't? Because he was a captain, he was a leader as well, wasn't he? Not just a player.
Yes, no, of course, he was that kind of person. But I make a little example. When we were in this UNICEF charity game at Old Trafford a few years back, he was in the dressing room, and because I was the only one understanding Spanish, he asked me for everything. And I mean everything. Every second, every 10, 15 seconds, he will ask me for something. But after 5 minutes, he said to me, I'm killing you, no? You're going to stop, looking after me. And I said, you're Diego Maradona. You can ask whatever you like, It's the way that I was looking at him, because it's the aura, the presence, the image that he was bringing that made people follow him everywhere.
Gus, been great to get your memories. Thanks very much for joining us. Time for a short break now here on Premier League Today, but a reminder of the sad news. World football legend, Argentina's 1986 World Cup winning captain Diego Maradona has passed away today at the age of 60. The football world mourns his death.